Welcome to the DevReady podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today, we're joined by Joeri and Lee from Innovate Wisely. We connected on LinkedIn. I think we had a really good conversation on how we're really innovating. A key thing for them is how do they help innovators innovate, and really going through that process of really executing on innovation. We can sometimes get a bit lost in the world of small business, corporate, of are we executing on something or are we just coming up with concepts that really going to get us nowhere in terms of value or return? Yuri, Lee, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Yuri, Lee, whoever wants to go first. Love to hear a little bit about you, your background, and how you ended up in Innovate Wisely.
Yeah, so my background is I'm an IT engineer by trade. Been in the business for over 20 years, and always been involved in technology in some shape or form. And did a business degree because I found out there was a big gap missing in my knowledge around how do you commercialize some of the technologies, how do you understand it. So that's something I did. I've started Big Jump in 2012, I think it was, and I've been doing a lot of stuff based on best practices and innovation and delivery and complex projects with high levels of uncertainty. But it's nothing unique because it's based on best practices, world's best practices. So I was introduced from a joint friend, from a mutual friend with Lee, and I met her at Queensland University of Technology, and she was doing a master's research and was developing a framework that was unique and scientifically based around knowledge management and capturing and creating new knowledge. And it was the part that was probably missing to make my own part unique. So I very much come from being in the trenches, progressing with teams, working in the Agile delivery as well as waterfall delivery projects, and very much people focused and behavior focused.
Thanks for that. And Lee, you're interested a little bit about you, but tell me a bit about your background.
Yeah, so I'm an engineer of over 30 years experience in chemical engineering, focusing in the water industry because I have a passion to help the environment, not hinder it, and also to work with community and help improve community and society in general. So as an engineer, I always wanted to push the boundaries of new solutions, and about in 2013 I became curious enough about organisations and how they function to go back to uni and delve into the theory of innovation. And I did a research degree at Queensland University of Technology, and from that research discovered that there was a missing link with innovation theory and how we go about innovating. And it was about knowledge. So obviously innovation and knowledge are linked, but how they were linked wasn't clear in the literature or in practice. So I developed a framework around that based on case study research. And then in 2020, I formed a business, Innovate Wisely, because I realised that the framework and what I'd learned needed to be shared more widely with other organisations, and the best way to do that obviously is through a business. And then met up with Joeri, and since then we've been working on validating and testing the framework and coming up with tools to help organisations and teams to use the framework so they have more successful, innovative outcomes. Yeah.
So Lee, on the new knowledge and the framework that you established, tell us a little bit about that and what that might mean for people that are innovating inside of a business or looking to innovate.
Yeah, I guess what it means is it provides a systematic and comprehensive methodology for a team to follow right from the commencement of the idea through to implementation. And it's a continuous improvement process. It's comprehensive in that it takes everything from that initiation and the forming of the new knowledge through to creating and testing the solution, but also the new knowledge aspects that are being created to help your customers adopt the solution. So then then there's an adopt phase, which is like an implementation phase, but because we focus on knowledge aspects throughout each phase, the adopt phase is also about adopting that new knowledge and embedding that new knowledge. And then the fourth phase is a critique phase, which is like a retrospective in Scrum language, or a review, but it's done with a focus of what new knowledge has been created and where else can we find opportunities to embed or utilize that new knowledge. So it's not about pointing fingers or anything like that. It's just let's uncover the new knowledge that we've created. So it's a bit more positive, and it's outward looking to opportunities, and it provides them with a systematic way of doing that, and then that helps them form the next phase of improvement, or could go off to another tangent of another project. So we provide that framework, that systematic way of looking at knowledge through the innovation process. And I guess because it builds on the science of other innovative processes out there, it is familiar. It's not something completely new. So it's easy to embed into existing systems that companies might have, like design thinking or agile ways of doing things or Scrum. It fits in nicely with existing systems, but it adds to them because it does talk about the knowledge aspects, and it also then talks to the trust and momentum side of things.
Talk a bit about that, because trust and momentum, you mentioned that off the air. I found that a little bit fascinating in terms of what that might mean. So the framework intent is to build trust. Is that across stakeholders, across the solution, across the whole process? Where does that sort of sit? And then momentum is obviously a bit easier to describe.
Yeah. So we found through the case study research and through validation is that the trust and momentum is evident in every stage of your innovation process. So it's at the heart of it all, and it's at the heart of the successful outcomes that you are trying to attain. So, and what we've written an article on and developed a bit of a model that describes where trust presents, and we call that OmniTrust 360, because it is everywhere and in everything. But we point out five different aspects, or is it six, Joeri? That where trust presents for innovation specifically, and that it can be in the team, it can be in your stakeholders, it can be in your leadership, it can be in the problem you're trying to solve. Do people actually trust that you have a problem that's worth solving? It can be in the solution. Is it going to meet my needs as the right customer? Solution? Yeah. Is it the right solution? Is it going to meet my needs? Do I trust that it will meet my needs? And do I trust that the people providing it understand my needs? So then it also talks to the momentum. Then is picked up with like for example, how much resource is provided to that project by the company. How much effort or enthusiasm do the leadership have, do the team have, to solve the problems that you're going to face through the innovation journey, because there will be problems. And if you can measure that, the trust and momentum through the whole innovation process, then we presented in a way, and we've developed a way that allows people to measure it in a lead as a lead indicator, to use it as a lead indicator rather than as a lag indicator. Because the way we inherently manage innovation is flawed in my view, because innovation has a lot of uncertainty in it. And when you're trying to manage it using variables that have a lot of uncertainty in it, you're going to set yourself up for failure. Like, how long is it going to take? How much money is it going to require?
If you're tracking normal measures for normal things, yeah, correct. I think that's where a lot of businesses can get a little bit lost. you're working on something that's new, that's if it's innovative, which means it's somewhat new, novel, new knowledge, the reality of it hitting a project scope, a time frame, and a deliverable on time, on budget to plan is very minimal. The reality is we're going to be pivoting. You mentioned Agile a little bit, Joeri, and Agile frameworks. The reality is we need to work in Agile frameworks to deliver innovation, not in a waterfall approach where it's 12 months we're going to build X and then we're going to test it. It's probably for all sorts of problems if you go down that path.
Yeah, one of the key things about the framework is it measures the tools that go with the framework. They really measure the trust across the different key stakeholders. So, and it does it with lead indicators. So, if you're able to, if you notice, for instance, one of the key drivers, the initiative owner, basically has been promoted or is doing something, starting to do something else, you start to notice that they're less engaged, and it's impacting the team. So, so you can pick on it really quite quickly and make sure you've got somebody lined up to do that, and so it'll surface that this will be impacting the team. It already is to some degree. People haven't left yet. Some of those sort of things it will pick up on is experiments that have been done in the market, and you're getting the indication that what we thought was really what we were trying to do, and where we saw the value is not the case. If some people are really passionate about delivering dealing with a problem for that customer group or that customer segment, and all of a sudden that's not where the market is, or that's what or not now. Will they shift to another market and experiment with that, or have they basically gone, no, this is where my passion was?
Yeah, got it. That's a bit of a challenge in innovation and anything new, that we can get stuck on what we believe is or what the passion is, and we need to be able to pivot with what we learn. I think that's where the real value is. If we can pivot with what we're learning, that's where you're really starting to deliver a good outcome for an end user. And that end user might be a different user that you've really thought we're going to solve for this problem or this person, but effectively no, our solution goes in a different world and helps a different category. And that is difficult sometimes.
Yep. And it may be a timing thing.
Yeah, true.
Maybe they're not the innovators or the early adopters.
So in innovation, from startup right through to corporate, and I know you work across all different variances, what's some of the roadblocks that you find in these spaces in innovation? So trust being one, and obviously momentum. If we're not putting enough resource or energy into, as you framed it, in innovation, it can fizzle up and die pretty quickly. How do we encourage businesses to think in that light? It's all about, continuous momentum, and then continuously building that, opening up conversations to build trust, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I guess, to think in that light is a challenge, and it is because it does take away from the current understanding and methodology of managing a project. But I guess a lot of people are starting to realise that trust is a huge factor in so many things, and people are showing a real desire to want to measure it, and if you can measure it, then you can manage it. And I guess so we're just trying to highlight that we can help with organisations who are interested in trust. And what we've developed is a simple methodology for people to follow, with a series of questions that people can just say, okay, I'm at this phase, I'm at the form phase, the beginning, the initiation phase, and here's a set of questions that I need to ask. I'm going to send them to my customers, to my stakeholders, to my team members, or some of those or all of them, and I'll get my measures back, I'll get my insights back, and they'll be valuable. And then from then I can make informed decisions on what I do next and how to get the trust back, or to make sure I keep the trust going or improve. So,
In many occasions, in many occasions, you'll come back and you'll find out that you've got some holes in what your thinking is, and potentially some critical aspects that are missing that undermine the trust, and it could be from the team, it could be from the leadership, it could be from a critical vendor that you need to work with. Identifying them up front and early allows you to address them, or even delay it, or basically put it on ice for quite a while until you've actually resolved the issues without burning through a whole lot of money with an innovation team, trying to do something that's it's going to fail, as you already know that. That's so basically that's failing before it starts, and then making sure
It's
you
better
set
to
it up for
fail
success.
early than, exactly, then you can solve for those problems rather than going that journey and stakeholders were never brought in and then all of a sudden you got pushback internally. So that's a bigger problem to solve for. Yeah. So when we dig in, what's a starting point for you? You mentioned that you support innovators, and that's an area that you really help in. How do you engage with those type of people, and what's the journey that they're on internally? So as we work in an organisation, in my mind, innovation is execution, and executing on something new and delivering value. Some organisations that I've been around believe innovation is having a design thinking workshop, and that's ticks the innovation box. But the reality is we want outcomes, and in anything we're looking for outcomes and results that we're looking to strive for. How do we support those people that are really in the trenches in an organisation to really drive innovation?
Yeah, well, that's we follow your philosophy on what innovation is, absolutely, and it's very aligned with my definition. And how we support them is we do have training programs and professional development programs for people who want to learn more about how to innovate using our framework and tools, but also how to. Where Joeri comes in is how to bring it into their existing organisation and to align it with whatever they're currently using, because he's across all the other methodologies and ways of doing innovation. So I guess one of our passions is other people's success. So we are trying to help people make a success out of what they're doing, and innovation does cost a lot of money, a lot of resource, a lot of time that goes into it. So we're there to try and help them maximise their potential and maximise their investment into that innovation. And part of that, is doing that benefits realisation process at the end in a good structured way. So you are getting the full
talk about
potential.
that benefits realisation process. So talk about that.
Yeah,
what
so
does that mean in your world?
Yeah, so in the framework, the fourth phase is what we call critique, and I called it critique because it's more than just lessons learned. It's really and it's more than just benefits realization, but it's all part of that. But it's about, like I was saying earlier, it's about trying to find those opportunities. And it's not just about having a workshop on lessons learned and ticking the box and saying, yes, we've done it, all the lessons are in that spreadsheet and there they are over there, and no one looks at it again. That
doesn't help anybody. It's just tick the box and move on. Yeah.
No. So by uncovering in a structured way that looks at trust and momentum, so you're looking and the knowledge aspects. What is the new knowledge that we've created? Where is the trust doing well, or where is it lacking? Where is the energy also? Where is it presenting, and where is it lacking? What knowledge objects aren't being used? What are being used? So that, and then by doing that, we're really looking at the full spectrum of the benefits. It's not just about people talking in a workshop and coming up with lessons. You're actually unpacking the full benefit of what's being done, and then working out a properly structured plan to realise the next lot of benefits that will come from understanding all of those blockers that are stopping progress.
Yeah. So if you relate this back to Scrum and that kind of stuff, it's like doing your sprint review. Or whatever your cycle is,
yes.
and then doing your retrospective as part of that, and then basically planning your next sort of iteration of what you're looking at progressing.
And it's a key thing is you mentioned the iteration. because the reality is innovation doesn't stop.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's
it
right.
may not land on that final solution that you delivered. It may be 20% there, but we can take that new knowledge as you frame it, because that's where it can come from, and park it over here or reiterate on the solution or evolve it. And iteration, as you talk about Agile, it's all about iteration, really. We're always evolving, looking to get better. There's no silver bullet in the space, as they would say.
No, just
Yeah.
something to
Yeah.
really add is the framework and the way we do analysis on in workshops and surveys and that kind of stuff to bring those lead indicators to the front. Is in the end is people need to take action.
Yes.
And we can recommend certain parts, and we can go, okay, you've got some challenges in the trust space and in this stakeholder, or we haven't got the support that we need, or we haven't got the resources, or this vendor is not seeing our work as a priority. Those kind of things will help surface it, then we can provide advice on recommendations. But in reality, somebody needs to do something, just like in Scrum, or if you're looking at project owners or initiative owners. Something needs to happen to address some of the behaviours generally from the team or stakeholders or the issue that we're dealing with.
Yeah. Action and execution, key to any success or outcome, really, or learning or evolution, right? So if you're not actioning anything, you just might as well park it and do business as usual, because the reality is you're never going to really deliver on that innovation. It's probably a waste of time, effort, and resource. Joeri, being in the world of tech and Agile, etc., everyone's talking about AI. I'll bring it to the surface a little bit. How they might use it in business, how they might innovate with it. What are you finding? Because I think it's a hot topical conversation today. We're having conversations across small, medium, large. Everyone's talking about it. No one knows where to go with it. Everyone's a little bit stuck. What are you seeing in this world?
Yeah, there's a couple of different things I'm seeing. One is businesses, even quite traditional businesses, are seeing that the pressure on their business is increasing significantly, and their ability to deliver services to their customers and their changing needs is becoming harder and harder. So they're looking at, okay, what are some of the things that we can actually use AI for to automate?
Yes.
Can we actually use, if we've got video recordings, can we use those video recordings to fill in some of the paperwork that we need to do? Can we transcribe it? Can we do things in that space to reduce the stuff that takes 5 hours normally to deal with something? Can you reduce it to half an hour or something like that? So
A review process rather than a creation process.
Yeah, exactly. So you still need to make sure you've ownership, because you need to check that there's a
That's
human
one of the
across
things
it.
you don't have. Yeah, you want to make sure there's a human across it. It's a support skills people. That's my frame on it. It's not a silver bullet that's going to do the work for you, and you don't look at it. Yeah, that's not a good outcome.
But definitely trust is a key part of that. Do you trust the technology?
Correct.
Are you ready for it? Some of the things that we've been noticing is people, because we're dealing mostly with innovators in this space, they go, yeah, this is awesome, this is fantastic, and then they're starting to use it, and they go, oh, this could be used for all kinds of stuff. So it's really is who's actually controlling the AI in that sense, who's guiding, who's putting the boundaries and the framework around it to guide it. So it's that trust is built on and not diminished, and people just refuse to use it. So it's definitely a shift. Notice that COVID has the pandemic has helped people adapt a lot quicker.
We had to adapt and learn and evolve very quickly. A lot of people are working from home these days, and still are, as am I. Never worked at home in my life until the COVID pandemic, and still hasn't changed. So it's fascinating how we can evolve. Everyone's gone through that, been through that. Some people were already working at home in the past, so they just thought business as usual, but others had to really adapt. And
that makes me think about one of the key aspects of innovation, and that my definition of innovation is that it must have a driver. It really has to have a strong driver behind the change. So, and it's one of the things about the energy aspects. If you don't have the drive, the need for the change, then there's going to be no energy for that change. Because change is difficult. No one likes to change, really, But when something like COVID pandemic comes along, there's a huge drive for that change. So everyone, within a couple of weeks, they were online doing Zoom calls.
It's
What's this
easy
Zoom
to
thing?
change when you have to. Back against the wall, you've got no choice. Change.
Well, that's exactly right.
There's no pushback then, is there?
That's when you get the most momentum happening, right? So that's what people need to try and create, is that
Yes.
desire, that need to really understand the need for change, or the desire for change, which is what Apple does. Apple has you desiring the next product. You don't really need to, but you desire it. You have that energy, that momentum.
That's one of the major blockers in any change or innovation. It's that whole change management piece. How do you sort of encompass that in the framework? Is it leading from the trust side, or where does it generally stem from for you?
Yeah, well, like I was saying, with understanding the driver, but by focusing on the driver, you have to focus on the customer right from the get-go. Because if you don't involve the customer, the ultimate customer, it could be internal, it could be external.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter. If you don't understand their needs and what's going to drive them to change, it's not going to change. So you need to focus on that right in the beginning, in the form phase. And there's a lot of the trust questions we have are based on that. And we keep touching on that through each phase to make sure we're still understanding their needs and what's motivating them.
Yeah, one of the phases. Yeah, one of the phases is the adopt phase. So basically, when you're starting to scope your initiative, you're looking at how are you actually going to adopt this, and how do you do that in the different cycles? How do you do it in a proof of concept? Do you go to a pilot? Do you go to a trial? How do you do all those different iterations of releasing it? But a key part is, I think change is on two sides. It's the stakeholders, but it's also the team that needs to change and evolve as you learn. And I think that's an absolutely essential part. So it's having that trust and energy across the spectrum, and your core team is absolutely essential to maintain that, because they're going to we're dealing with high levels of uncertainty, and that's uncomfortable for anybody.
Everybody, yes. Doesn't matter. Yeah, we always there's a point of uncomfort when things don't go to plan, and they generally don't in this world.
Yeah.
So the plan is great, but reality is it's going to change.
Yeah. So how do you adjust to that? And how do you keep supporting each other? So one of the things that I do is I do a lot of innovation and agile coaching, where you basically guide these people, and they basically come and have a chat and then go, hey, this is what's happening. It's like, is this okay? Because I feel like quitting.
Yeah, I feel like running away, right? Can feel like that sometimes. It's you hit a wall and you think, oh, is it really worth it? But that's a point of breakthrough sometimes. When we hit those walls, it's a point of new learning, new knowledge, pivoting, and understanding what next steps are. And I think you've got to realise that they're good things, but in the time when you're in them, they're not that comfortable. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's the advantage of coming in externally quite often as well, is you can provide that external view.
Yeah.
And you have less impact. So, but you can actually support the change agents that are really doing the hard jobs in their own organisation, and know the organisation a lot better, know the political landscape, know some of the challenges, and you can be that outside sounding board, but also potentially have a connection into the executives, where you go, okay, this is what's happening, this is our view, and this is what you could do about it, and then it's up to them to decide what they do.
Yeah, correct, and what action they take on that. An organisation or somebody in an organisation has a concept or an idea that they want to drive out. What's the first step? Where should they start? Is it a conversation? Is it a putting it down on paper? Is it a getting clarity across key stakeholders? What's the first step generally that you'd recommend people to take?
Yeah, well, we have a system that we use, which is called the Knowledge Canvas. And that guides people through a step-by-step process to start at the beginning and work all the way through each step. So it creates a knowledge-based and trust-based strategy or plan for them to execute. And it starts at the form phase, the initiation phase, where they're kicking off the project. They understand the problem. They've got an idea of what the solution is. they've got an idea of who the team's going to be, that sort of thing, and they just start documenting it and answering the questions step by step and filling in the canvas. But we do encourage that even at the form phase, you go through each of the 4 phases. So even at the form phase, you're thinking about the customer, how are they going to, what customers do we want to engage with right at the beginning, and who's going to test our products in the early stages, who's going to be our first round of adopters, and then how do we get the feedback from them in the critique phase, and what do we need in terms of the knowledge aspects that are going to be building and being tested through the whole process to make sure we are keeping track of our knowledge, we're managing our knowledge, and at the end of the day, we understand what our new knowledge is, and we've got that feedback in a structured way that we can analyse and measure how trust and energy is going.
Yeah, so I think it's biting stuff into small pieces. So this is probably one of the biggest risks that we've seen is people want to do too many big things. Is they want $1 million projects. And it's like, how about starting with something like 50k or 20k?
Just a little bite-sized piece.
And then plan ahead. How do we actually learn from it? What do we want to learn? And you may already have multiple knowledge canvases available. So depending on what we know, what we learn, we may go in the next iteration. We may go in that certain direction. Then we may go left, or we may go right, or we may park it. And that's some of the stuff that can really help. We've got a platform, software as a service, where you can actually use the knowledge canvas, and there's a whole lot of training.
It's fascinating to learn a little bit about that. But is that targeted specifically at the innovators in organisations? Is that the intent?
In reality, innovation happens in lots of places. I spend a lot of time not necessarily in innovation hubs or anything like that, or purely startups. A lot of it starts happening in where strategy meets portfolio. So where you're looking at portfolio management, where they're determining is, okay, what's the real value from a strategic point of view? Where does the business want to go? Where does the customers want to go? How does that connect into portfolio management? We can do a million things. Which ones are we gonna basically go ahead and do? Let's just get them going. Which ones are we dealing with a whole lot of uncertainty and more considered as an innovative sort of project where you do a lot more of an agile approach to implement it and learn. So that's where we see. So helping people. So you can basically use like a project on a page or initiative on a page. You can use that knowledge canvas to basically assess different initiatives and see where the trust is and energy, where some of the blockers are, even before you start. And you go, okay, this may be really high value, but we haven't got anybody to lead it properly. So maybe we should just park it and look at something that we create a bit of success, get the initial some wins, build the trust and belief in the team and the organization that we can actually do these things that are really hard, especially across different silos. So looking at across different tribes, how do you even tackle some of those real business problems that haven't been tackled for the last five years? Is how can you pick up some of those and show a bit of momentum and gain that trust, and then look at how you spread that towards more and more teams bit by bit, and then you're building that capability here and change the organization one agent at a time.
It can be a bit like that, one step at a time.
The platform has been set up for teams, so it's one knowledge canvas per project, but 10 at the moment, 10 people can access that one knowledge canvas and work on it together or share it easily, that sort of thing. So it's trying to set it up so it can be used for the whole team and to contribute from the whole team.
Because it's contribution, right? Innovation is not in one person's head or evolution. It's generally multiple ideas and concepts from many people. That's where we get better momentum anyway in terms of our project, as you would frame it, as well as better concepts and better execution. We've got more people buying in. So collaborative creating is important.
Dealing with the most complex challenges is you need that cross-functional team, all the different people with different backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, different views, creative, scientific, all those kind of stuff. Bringing that together to try and solve it all. Experiment. None of them have the answers, but together.
No, together you find answers. You stumble across ideas. Someone shares something, and that triggers something else. Yeah, it's quite fascinating how we evolve together.
Oh no, research has shown again and again that innovation requires collaboration. It's imperative. It's not just important. It's a must-have.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate you coming on, talking about all things innovation. If anyone wants to learn more, please check Lee and Joeri out at innovatewisely.com, his website. And the system itself, is that accessible via the website, or is that something different?
Through subscription, yes. It's access through the website, yeah. Yeah,
perfect. So, if everyone wants to go and learn a little bit more about what they're all about in terms of the framework and structure, check them out at innovatewisely.com. Thank you for joining us on the DevReady podcast. Really appreciate your time and sharing your experience and background and a little bit about your frameworks and how that might support people in the world of innovation. So thanks for coming on today.
Well, thanks for having us. It's been lots of fun. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Thanks,
appreciate
Andrew.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks.